The American president has finally stated the terms of the agreement to end the war with Iran. Donald Trump is currently sending completely different signals about ending the war with Iran. On one hand, the White House believes it is close to reaching an agreement with Iran on a one-page memorandum of understanding that will end the war and lay the groundwork for more detailed nuclear negotiations. Now, the US is expecting a response from Iran on several key points within the next 48 hours. And right away, Donald Trump stated that Iran must accept the terms of the agreement with Washington. Otherwise, the country will face new airstrikes at an unprecedented level. And as a concession from the United States of America, Trump announced the suspension of the operation to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz by the American military. But there was still a question. And what are the terms of the future agreement that the White House is now putting forward? And so Donald Trump named the conditions that Iran must fulfill to conclude a peace agreement, which we will discuss with you in this episode. My name is Alexei Pecci. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, and write any comment under this video. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video, or by using the QR code on your screens, or through sponsorship on the YouTube platform. In general, if you find this episode interesting and useful, at the end of the episode I will ask you to support the work of our YouTube channel with your donations. So, the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, expressed optimism about the possibility of reaching an agreement with Iran to end the war. This agreement may include conditions for Iran to export its highly enriched uranium to the United States. Trump said this the day before in an interview with PBS News, and according to Trump, the US is close to reaching an agreement. Here is his quote: "I've felt this way before, being close to making a deal. So we'll see what happens. I think we have a very good chance to reach an agreement again. If we don't do it, we'll go back to our old ways." And that's where Trump stated that part of the agreement should be a condition that Iran's highly enriched uranium would be handed over specifically to the United States of America. And we're talking about approximately 450 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60%. Another condition stipulates that Iran must commit to no longer operating its underground nuclear facilities, and IAEA experts must verify the actual closure of these facilities. All of Iran's peaceful nuclear activities must be conducted exclusively on the surface so that the United States has no suspicions that Iran is hiding or concealing anything again. And here comes a very interesting point. Donald Trump is clearly in a hurry. He stated that he is seeking to reach an agreement to end the war before his visit to China next week. He emphasized, and I quote, "I think there is a very good chance this will be resolved, and if it isn't, we'll have to return to bombings that will make their lives hell." And on this topic, I recommend you watch my previous episode on this YouTube channel where I talked about it. China has unexpectedly become the very peacemaker that is supposed to bring an end to the war in the Middle East. And now China has presented Trump with a bill for its help in putting pressure on Iran and for its assistance in ending the war, which Trump can no longer end on his own. That's why I recommend watching a separate episode on this topic on my YouTube channel and subscribing if you haven't done so yet. And here it's important to note that the positions of the parties still differ greatly. But at the same time, to get a little ahead of myself, I'll say that it's clear why the Americans are trying to at least sign a memorandum of understanding. Because they need some kind of document before Donald Trump's visit to Beijing on May 14. And here, let me remind you that at the beginning of May, Iran made a new proposal to the United States of America, which was aimed at easing the situation around the Hormuz Strait, but postponing the discussion of the nuclear program to a later stage. And according to Axios, the US is now expecting answers from Iran to several key questions within 48 hours. The proposed agreement stipulates that Iran will impose a moratorium on uranium enrichment, but not permanently. The US will lift sanctions and unblock billions of frozen Iranian funds, and both sides will lift restrictions on transit through the Strait of Hormuz. And now we will discuss this in more detail. I should note right away that Donald Trump is in a hurry to sign not the actual agreement to end the war before his visit to China on May 14, but only a Memorandum of Understanding. Why is that? The thing is, the White House believes that the Iranian leadership is divided, and reaching a consensus between the different factions may be very, very difficult. Some American officials remain skeptical even about the possibility of reaching any kind of initial agreement. That is, I would even say not even an initial one, a preliminary agreement. And now it has emerged that a one-page memorandum of understanding consisting of 14 points is being discussed between Trump's envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and several Iranian officials, both directly and through intermediaries. In its current form, the Memorandum of Understanding provides for an end to the war in the region and the start of a 30-day period of negotiations on a detailed agreement regarding the opening of the Hormuz Strait, limiting Iran's nuclear program, and lifting U.S. sanctions. According to American officials, Iran's restrictions on shipping through the strait and the U.S. naval blockade will be gradually lifted during this 30-day period. If the negotiations fail, American forces will be able to either restore the blockade or resume military action. Trump has already said the U.S. is ready for more bombings. Although such bombings are unlikely before the visits to Beijing, because then Trump will be in a very precarious position during his meeting with Xi Jinping. That's why he's in a hurry to sign at least a memorandum. In addition, it is noted that the duration of the moratorium on uranium enrichment is actively being discussed. At the same time, 3 sources claim that it will be at least 12 years. This completely negates Trump's statement that he would supposedly shut down Iran's nuclear program forever. The US also wants to include a provision in the law stating that any violation by Iran of uranium enrichment standards would extend the moratorium or restart it from the beginning. After the moratorium expires, Iran will be able to enrich uranium to a low level, almost 3.7%, which is used for civilian purposes. Also, in the Memorandum of Understanding, Iran commits to never seek to possess nuclear weapons and not to engage in activities related to their development. Trump also expects Iran to commit to strengthening the inspection regime, including unannounced checks by UN inspectors. And as for the US, under the Memorandum of Understanding, they commit to gradually lifting the sanctions imposed on Iran and to gradually unblocking billions of dollars of Iranian assets frozen around the world. But here arises a key problem that could render all these conditions meaningless. The day before, the United States Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, stated that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps operates autonomously and independently from Iran's negotiators and politicians. Supposedly, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is shelling a vessel in the Hormuz Strait. The negotiators with whom the Americans are negotiating cannot influence this in any way. Well, the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, even called some of Iran's top leaders insane and said it's unclear whether they will agree to any kind of deal. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with a donation or a paid membership. You can use the links and payment details in the description of this video or the QR code on your screen. I will be grateful for any support you provide. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pitchy News. The link is in the description of this video. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.